Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We offer stories of infidelity, betrayal, and redemption. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Now, on to today's story. Husband ruined my career. I, 26F, met my husband, 40M, when I was 19 and he was 33. When I met him, I had just moved out of my hometown where I had just spent the last year living in a trap house and frequently using drugs, and I wanted to get my life back on track. He had just gotten out of the military. Things seemed pretty good at first, but there were some red flags. With me being so young, I definitely wasn't super emotionally mature, and this would be the first actual relationship I was in. Looking back, I just really feel like I didn't know what I was doing. I had nothing to compare this to, and I wasn't ready to be in a long-term relationship. The things that stand out the most looking back as red flags include: he once trespassed in my friend's house who I was staying with, hiding behind furniture and spying on us to make sure I wasn't sleeping with my friend. I wasn't. He once made a very extensive list of things he didn't like about me. He would keep track of how many times he had suicidal thoughts. It was in the 300s, and he would throw it in my face and blame me for having those thoughts. Not something he did to me, but he told me a story about how he tried to get his kid put up for adoption just to spite his baby mama so she could never see him again. He also kind of always talked down to me, and he says he didn't mean it that way, and I don't necessarily think he did, but he always just kind of made me feel kind of dumb. After a few years I ended up joining the Navy and we got married. After my first deployment I came back, and it's hard to explain, but things just felt off. I didn't feel attracted to him anymore and really felt uncomfortable with any kind of intimacy or him touching me, but I figured I'd get over it and things would go back to normal. Eventually months and then years went by and I still had that same feeling. I didn't really feel comfortable telling him how I felt, because usually when I said something was upsetting me he wouldn't really care, and plus I didn't want to hurt his feelings. He would often touch me and it's hard to explain, but I would get the same sick feeling in my stomach that I can only compare to the same feeling I had when I had gotten raped once in the past. So I would either just clearly act uncomfortable but he would keep touching me, or sometimes I would say I didn't want to be touched and he would sometimes continue, but sometimes he would stop. However, we went years without having sex and we would just kind of act like things were normal even though our marriage was extremely degraded, but I guess we both just didn't want to talk about it. These years were hard and I felt extremely depressed but kept it bottled up. I went on my next deployment and at that point I had already decided I would ask for a divorce when I got home. I didn't plan on cheating, but since I already felt that my marriage was over, when someone made a move on me, I ended up starting an affair. I felt extremely guilty and admitted it to him after about a month. He said he forgave me. I stopped the affair for a while but eventually started it up again, and he said he was okay if I kept it going during deployment if I cut it off when I got back, and I told him if he wanted to sleep with someone else too that was fine. When I got back, I still wanted a divorce, and I figured since I was trying to get divorced, why not keep the affair going? I kept asking for a divorce but he kept saying no, that he wanted to stay married. I told him I still wanted to be friends and we could do it amicably. I told him I thought he deserved to be with someone that would be better for him than me. But he refused to sign papers. I felt completely trapped, and I used drugs a few times, while on leave and on long weekends, because I felt that that was the only thing that could make me feel any happiness. After a few months, my husband called the police and my command to report me for using, and revealed that he had been working with NCIS for months to build a case against me for using drugs. He had been collecting evidence, including going through my phone and taking secret videos of me. Now I am getting kicked out of the Navy after just getting promoted, and I was about to re-enlist and get a huge bonus. I won't be able to use the GI Bill and it'll be hard to find a job. This has also ostracized me from my friends, so I am completely lonely and isolated while he at least has friends and family for support. I guess it serves me right, but I just keep wondering why he couldn't just divorce me like a normal person and we could move on. TL, doctor, my marriage had been going very badly for years. I cheated on my husband and he turned me into the police and my job for using drugs. My big question is how you ended up on the radar of NCIS. Was the new guy a supplier? Did your hubby just catch you then go to NCIS? I just figured that someone going to them would be hearsay, and for such a small thing as using they might not have time for that. He went to them. There's more to it than that, but I can't really go into detail. What a shit. Well, it is my understanding that you can petition to change your discharge by starting to go to therapy where you are open about your substance abuse. I don't even think you need to do that, but it doesn't hurt to have a licensed professional who has your back. And it's just a fact that people who are depressed will probably self-medicate. I know several people who have had a dishonorable discharge changed so they can got to the VA, etc. Yes, my husband told my attorney that I am pregnant. Like why? At this point I'm just waiting for the circus to end. It's up to you, naturally. Just so you could still get benefits and such. What? No, I'm not pregnant, he's just dragging this out for I don't know what reason. Oh, I see, lol. Was confused. Still am actually, though none to do with this. True. The point is people are spiteful. What's NCIS? See no evil monkey. Naval Criminal Investigative Service, I believe. Police for the Navy. Your husband didn't ruin anything. You ruined your career by doing drugs. That's all on you. And let's not forget, she cheated on him first and denied him intimacy and communication. I can't really feel sorry for this woman. In my opinion, she got what she deserved and her husband was smart to wait to drop the bomb her after gathering the evidence. Correct. Both of you are in the wrong in my opinion, though honestly if you still want to divorce him, speak with a divorce lawyer and see what you can do. She cheated and he was in the wrong. She used drugs and he is in the wrong. Are you joking? If you wanted a divorce instead of going to drugs, you should have filed the paperwork yourself and filed. So what, he wouldn't sign? You should have filed and left the home. You can get divorced without his signature. He is a sneaky ass. Of course he was going to destroy you. He dare you cheat on him. How dare you want a divorce? You can't get divorced without his signature unless you go to court and get a lawyer. It's kind of a big deal. She could file without his signature, you can still get divorced without one, either way it goes in front of a judge, signed or not. Unsigned means he is contesting it. If she had done it right, she would have had free legal rights because she was in the military. I think you should brush up a bit on divorce laws before you start talking shit. Most countries don't require 2 signatures. I haven't actually seen one yet here, but then again, I didn't read through the whole thing. Source, literally am divorced and have gone through the process. I'm sorry to hear that. Most places don't, and it's unfortunate you fell into that minority. That may be the case. It was mostly amicable, but the legal aspect was annoying. Your situation sucks, but realistically you ruined your own career. Don't do drugs. Your husband is a grade A-hole for snitching you out in such a sneaky way, but at the end of the day it was your decision to get back into doing drugs. Every action has consequences, that was yours. The husband was sneaky. I don't think he was an asshole though. He's holding it down while the wife is getting railed out by God knows how many sailors. Then she starts using. The whole situation is one red flag after another. Questionable decisions along with questionable high-risk behavior. Turning her in was probably a sound self-preservation maneuver. She was probably a week away from making false domestic violence claims against him. Stupid comment. There is still some socially backwards stigma in some parts of society instead of treating addiction like the disease it is. This young woman was preyed upon by a predator, abused, manipulated, which drove her to relapse on drugs, and now she's getting punished for something her husband did to her. She shouldn't have stayed with a man she didn't want to be with for so long that was abusive. Toxic people in your life cause toxic situations no matter how good you are. She was on drugs before she ever met her husband, so it's not like he's assholery forced her into a life of drugs or anything. He didn't help her mental or emotional situation, and yes, was probably a factor in her relapse, but she could have tried many other avenues before turning to drugs again. She made a conscious choice to use drugs as her coping tool. That's on her, nobody else. Drug addiction is not a disease. It is a conscious choice you made and continue to make. I was married to one. I can tell you this is 100% fact. The disease excuse is their way of justifying their behavior and choices. I guess it serves me right, but I just keep wondering why he couldn't just divorce me like a normal person and we could move on. There's nothing normal about any of this. You ignored a ton of red flags when you married him, then stayed married to him in a dead marriage for years instead of getting a divorce early on. Yeah, like between the stalking, yes, stalking, and the 300 plus suicidal thoughts listed, I would have been told her to leave. That man isn't stable whatsoever. Honestly, he sucks, but you screwed up too and you kinda deserved it. You ruined your own career. 100% correct. I can tell what type of person you are in a social setting. I bet you aren't in social settings very much, am I right? I'm sorry that things are happening this way. You made some pretty major mistakes, but who doesn't in their 20s? Now is the time to get your SH1T together and fight this guy who is raging with revenge because you didn't stay pliable and under his complete control, which is what most men who purposely become involved with a teenager are trying for. Figure out what you need to do to minimize the charges against you. Throw yourself into rehab, not just to look good in court. Give yourself the benefit of learning ways to avoid falling back into drugs whenever life gets rough, because life does get rough on and off until it's over. You shouldn't have cheated, and you shouldn't have used drugs. You knew that both of those things were wrong. Get into therapy to figure out why you did them anyway, knowing how much trouble you could get into. However, he is an evil mastermind with the humanity of a dung beetle. You kept asking for a divorce, but instead of just walking away, he actively engineered a plan to crush you, and he spent a long period of time spying on you, while no doubt manipulating you farther out on the limb. I guess that he was feeling some type of way about it all. But read these stories and you'll see that the normal course of action is to, at most, notify the AP's spouse, both partners' families, and maybe the wayward's job, but the job thing is about 50-50. To actively sustain a complete facade, while refusing to just let you go, is completely bonkers. He wanted to make sure that you paid as much as he could arrange for your original sin of rejecting him. Before your court-martial terminates your access, contact and utilize every single resource available to active military personnel. Take responsibility for your mistakes, but don't let the fact that you have been under the influence of a probable psycho/sociopath 14 years ahead of you in experience go unnoticed. Make no mistake, you are a victim, but not in the ways you think. You are the victim of someone who used their knowledge and experience to their advantage against a teenager who hadn't lived enough to even imagine most of the things people do, while at the same time believing that you had life firmly by the nutsack. Because honestly, what 19-year-old doesn't have everything figured out? They are all invincible and know better than everyone because things are different now. /s. Salvage what you can from this. Build yourself a solid inner foundation. You have a lot of life ahead of you, and you can and will come back from this if you get yourself together. Stay as far away from this guy as you can, and definitely don't allow him to drive you in a direction that will make things worse. Don't talk to him, don't read his messages, definitely don't be alone with him. The best thing to come out of this will be him finally being out of your life. Edit, finished a sentence I left hanging. Totally deserved. Funny how she cheated, lowered herself even worse than the guy in the end, and now cries that he ruined her. Woman, you ruined yourself in every choice and step of the way. I agree. He was a sneaky asshole, but the decisions to cheat and do drugs were hers. I bet as soon as she got caught/admitted to cheating, he put the plan in motion. Man, he still sounds like a rapist to me. He targeted you for your age and naiveness. Why would a grown-ass man want to be with a person who is barely an adult? It's gross. Your relationship was emotionally abusive. I hope you can move from this terrible relationship and heal from this. In regards to your job, I would say that's more of your fault. You knew what the consequences were of taking drugs with a job like yours. Sure, he's ducked up for doing that, but what did you expect? He told you what he was capable of doing when he told you about his baby mama. Smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. He groomed you from the start. I'm sorry this man happened to you. Don't give up, you can rebuild a good life minus the predator you married. I'm sorry. Maybe some food will come. Stay positive. There has to be a silver lining. Sounds like you both ruined your career. Her statements don't make sense. Let me explain. I ended up joining the Navy and we got married. After my first deployment I came back, and it's hard to explain, but things just felt off. I didn't feel attracted to him anymore and really felt uncomfortable with any kind of intimacy or him touching me. She never had problems with intimacy before her deployment. Her problems with her husband only started after coming back. This is a clear indication of her starting an affair during the time of her first deployment. Check with any psychologist. A person loses his or her interest in their partner after they start an affair with someone else. Her husband must have caught her. He planned his revenge and did it. Now she wants to justify her actions, so she is making him look like a psycho. Most of the cheaters does this. I don't believe her and do not believe that her husband is a boss. I didn't have an affair on my first deployment and he didn't catch me. I admitted it like I said. What would I have to gain from lying on Reddit? Lying on Reddit happens all the time, and you've already proven yourself to be untrustworthy to your husband and the Navy, so it's not that big of a stretch to believe you did and still are. I can already see his post. Wife was showing so many red flags. Denying me intimacy. Having sleepovers with a guy friend, but I could never catch her in the act. Then when she was deployed she admitted to having an affair. I tried to make it work. Forgive her. Then I even allowed her to continue her affair while deployed, but she could not even do that and kept the affair over even after she returned. I tried everything to save my marriage cause I love her so much. I reached my breaking point. I decided to grow a spine and stop being a doormat. She wanted divorce and I wanted revenge. So I reported all her illegal activities with all the evidence I had gathered. Now her career is ruined. Moral of the story, don't put up with trash people like my wife. And everyone in the comments cheering him on. TBH, I would have cheered him on, and TBH still am. People on Reddit can't read for shit. I roll my eyes when they claimed he groomed her, even though the first sentence says they met when she was 19. Is it skeevy/creepy? Yes, but not grooming. Nothing that is happening to her is happening for any other reason than her own decisions. Did you not read the rest of her post? She was a recovering drug addict when she met him. 19-year-olds are adults by legal definition, but they are still mentally teenagers. Psychology has shown human brains aren't done developing until 25. Want to know what areas of the brain are the last to develop? The areas that are associated with risk assessment and regulating emotions. Why do you think this 33-year-old had to resort to going after a naive teenager who was recovering from drug usage? Because women his age or even around his own age would be able to smell his bullshit from 10 miles away. The decision to start an affair and relapse back into drugs is definitely her fault. But the creepy 30-year-old going after teenagers who also threatened to off himself if said teenager broke up with him, is just as much of an asshole. Kinda gross how you have no issue putting down drug addicts and cheaters, yet you're cheering on manipulative predators. But hey, you do you, I guess. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Please comment, like and subscribe. Cheers. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.